more things.
Let's go.
Let's go!
Oh.
Maggots.
A movie that blends the world of gaming with real emotions. But does the Super Mario Galaxy movie 2026 truly live up to the hype, or is it just overrated? Welcome to Film View, where we tell the truth, no filters. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is a 2026 American animated adventure comedy movie based on Nintendo's Mario video game series. It is directed by Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic and written by Matthew Fogel. This movie is the sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The main voice cast includes Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, and Keegan-Michael Key, who all return to their roles. New cast members include Benny Safdie, Donald Glover, Glenn Powell, and Brie Larson. The movie is produced by Illumination and Nintendo. In the story, Mario, Luigi, and their friends go on a new adventure into outer space. During their journey, they meet Princess Rosalina and face their enemies Bowser and his son, Bowser Jr., in an exciting space battle. In May 2021, Nintendo's president Shuntaro Furukawa said that the company was interested in making more animated movies based on their games, but only if the Mario movie became successful. Before the release of the 2023 film, Illumination CEO and producer Chris Meledandri was also asked about the chance of making a sequel. After the movie performed very well at the box office, a new animated Mario film was officially announced in March 2024. The same directors, Horvath and Jelinek, returned to direct, and Fogel came back as the writer. The movie takes inspiration from popular games like Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, along with other Nintendo games such as the Star Fox series. The movie first premiered at the Minami-za in Kyoto on March 28, 2026. It was then released in cinemas in the United States on April by Universal Pictures. The movie received mixed to negative reviews from critics, but it still performed very well commercially, just like the previous film. It earned about $839 million worldwide with a budget of $110 million, making it the highest earning film of Toshin 6. Princess Rosalina, who takes care of the Lumas and lives in the Comet Observatory, is kidnapped by Bowser Jr. He plans to steal her special power, which can create life, and use it to power a huge cannon that can destroy the universe. He wants to do this to impress his father, Bowser, who was earlier defeated by Mario and Luigi and turned very small by Princess Peach. At the same time, Mario and Luigi are sent to check a strange problem in Tostarena town. There they meet and become friends with a dinosaur named Yoshi. Yoshi was born in Brooklyn but later followed back to his own world after he accidentally broke a dinosaur skeleton in a museum. Meanwhile, a Luma sent by Rosalina reaches the Mushroom Kingdom and asks Peach and Toad for help. While Peach and Toad are away, Luigi and Yoshi try to protect the Mushroom Kingdom and even attempt to help Bowser become a better person. Later, Bowser Jr. lifts Peach's castle into space to free his father. But during a fight with Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi, His spaceship drops the castle into the Honey Hive galaxy. Bowser tricks Mario into attacking him, which turns him back to his normal size. However, Bowser surprisingly agrees to be arrested for damaging the land as long as Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi are sent safely to the Gateway Galaxy. While doing work, Bowser is suddenly taken away by his own son, whom he has not seen for years. In the Gateway Galaxy, Toad's backpack is stolen by a monkey thief named Ukiki, who hides it in a secret casino. Peach meets Ward, the owner of the casino, and fights his helpers to force him to talk. He finally reveals that Rosalina is being held in the Space Junk Galaxy, but he secretly informs the Bowsers about Peach's location. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi later meet Peach and Toad again. They hire pilot Fox McCloud to help them travel. However, during the journey, Bowser Jr. attacks them and uses a super scope weapon to turn Mario and Luigi into babies. Bowser feels bad for betraying the brothers earlier, but decides to return to his old evil ways to reconnect with his son. Yoshi later finds the Super Scope, saves Mario and Luigi from a dinosaur attack, and brings them back to their normal age. Luigi then contacts the Lumas, who take them to the Comet Observatory. There, Peach discovers something shocking. She has the same powers as Rosalina, who is actually her long lost older sister. Both of them were born from stardust, and Rosalina had sent baby Peach to the Mushroom Kingdom long ago to protect her from a mysterious danger. With the help of Fox, Toad, and the Lumas, the group travels to a new place called Planet Bowser. Mario and Peach face Bowser in a final battle, and Mario pushes him into lava. Even then, Bowser survives in a skeletal form. Luigi and Yoshi join Mario, and together they defeat both Bowser and Bowser Jr. using special power ups. Peach then saves Rosalina, and together they turn Planet Bowser into a brand new world. In the end, Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi help Peach and Rosalina rebuild Peach's castle along with the Toads and Lumas. As a thank you, Peach kisses Mario on the cheek. Fox sends Bowser and his son to prison before returning to his own galaxy. Back in the Gateway Galaxy, Princess Daisy stops Ukiki from stealing again, bringing the adventure to a close. What makes the casting for the Super Mario Galaxy movie especially notable is how clearly the voice lineup suggests a shift in tone, scale, and emotional focus compared with a more grounded Mushroom Kingdom adventure. The presence of Brie Larson as Rosalina immediately changes the center of gravity of the cast. Rosalina is not simply another supporting princess or a decorative addition to the Mario universe. She carries an entirely different atmosphere, distant, celestial, maternal, reflective, and mythic. Casting a performer with enough star presence to make Rosalina feel like a true co lead rather than an accessory signals that the film appears to be building itself around cosmic spectacle and emotional softness at the same time. Rosalina, when treated seriously, introduces wonder, melancholy, guardianship, and a sense of storybook scale that expands Mario far beyond pipes, castles, and kart racing energy. That choice also alters how the rest of the cast functions. Chris Pratt as Mario and Charlie Day as Luigi instantly ground the movie in an already familiar vocal dynamic. Mario brings momentum and centrality, Luigi brings nervous charm, hesitation, and a reactive comic rhythm. But when Rosalina enters that equation, the duo's energy stops being only fraternal and comedic, it becomes relational in a broader way. Mario's can do optimism and Luigi's vulnerable humanity are the ideal earthbound contrast to Rosalina's cosmic calm. In casting terms, that is one of the most important balances in the movie: the heroic everyman, the anxious brother, and the serene celestial guide. Even before a single scene is analyzed, the voices alone imply a structure in which action, comedy, and awe are meant to coexist. Anya Taylor Joy returning as Princess Peach reinforces that sense of continuity while also protecting Peach from being displaced by Rosalina's arrival. In a cast like this, Peach could easily have become less central once another major princess figure enters the story. Instead, placing Peach beside Mario, Luigi, and Rosalina keeps the core heroic side of the film broad and layered. Peach represents strategic confidence and royal authority within the Mushroom Kingdom sphere, whereas Rosalina suggests something older and larger than kingdoms. The vocal distinction matters. The cast seems to position Peach as the practical leader and Rosalina as the metaphysical guide. That division gives the movie room to have both urgency and dreamlike scale. The apparent casting hierarchy also suggests that Rosalina is not being treated as a cameo or a final act reveal. She sits near the very front of the cast ordering, and that has consequences for how the audience reads the film. It implies that the movie wants viewers to see Galaxy era mythology as central to the dramatic identity of the project. If that reading is correct, then the casting is less about plugging famous names into game roles and more about shaping a tonal architecture. Mario and Luigi provide accessibility, Peach brings command, Rosalina opens the emotional horizon, And the Lumas turn the cosmic world into something playful rather than abstract. That last part is crucial because the cast does not stop at Rosalina. Virginia Dare Jelinek is listed as Yellow Luma, and Juliet Jelinek is listed as Lumali. Even without overriding those individual choices, the presence of named Luma roles tells you this adaptation is likely investing in the Star Child side of Mario Galaxy rather than merely borrowing the title for branding. Lumas are not just visual decoration. They are the emotional texture of Rosalina's world. They allow the film to move between cuteness, innocence, tragedy, and cosmic whimsy without losing audience connection. A galaxy story needs living embodiments of wonder, and this cast list strongly indicates that the film understands that the casting therefore works on two parallel tracks. On one side are instantly recognizable names that can sell the movie globally. On the other side are character allocations that reveal story priorities. The ensemble is not simply crowded, it is structured. The names assigned to the main roles suggest an attempt to preserve the broad family friendly energy of modern Mario while widening the emotional vocabulary into something more luminous and fantastical. That is the first major strength of the casting. It does not merely assemble celebrities around Mario. It uses recognizable performers to outline a specific version of the Mario universe, one where wonder is important as momentum. Chris Pratt's continuation as Mario is arguably the casting decision that makes the rest of the ensemble legible to mainstream audiences. Whether one loves or dislikes the choice in the abstract, its function here is obvious. Mario has to be the anchoring presence who makes a galaxy sized narrative feel approachable. A space fantasy can become weightless if it is not emotionally tethered to a voice that sounds immediate, practical, and active. Pratt's Mario serves that function. He is not cast to be mysterious or operatic. He is cast to move scenes forward, to react quickly, to energize exposition, and to carry the audience from one increasingly strange environment to the next without letting the film drift into over-serious fantasy. In a film centered on cosmic imagery, star beings, and characters like Rosalina, Mario's job becomes more important than ever. He cannot be swallowed by the mythology around him. He needs to sound like the person who asks the direct question, takes the first leap, and transforms impossible spaces into playable terrain. A galaxy movie lives or dies on whether the central hero can make planets, observatories, and celestial threats feel like places for adventure rather than places for distant reverence. Casting a performer with an accessible, contemporary comic adventure rhythm helps preserve that quality. There is also something practical about keeping Mario's voice performance steady across projects. Continuity matters in franchise animation, especially when the world itself is expanding. If the environment becomes stranger, the protagonist benefits from staying vocally recognizable. That does not mean the performance must stay emotionally flat. On the contrary, a film like this gives Mario more opportunities to register awe, confusion, protectiveness, and even humility when placed alongside Rosalina. But the foundational readability of the character needs to remain intact. The audience should never wonder who the movie belongs to, even if Rosalina is elevated into a major role. Pratt's presence appears to secure that. Mario's casting also influences the interpretation of other supporting choices. Donald Glover as Yoshi, for example, becomes interesting, partly because Mario's voice is already set in a broad, brisk register. Yoshi then has room to bring a different kind of charm, one that can be cooler, lighter, or more rhythmically playful depending on how the script uses him. Similarly, Jack Black as Bowser becomes even more useful in contrast to Pratt's Mario because the antagonistic energy can grow louder, more theatrical, and more musically expressive without destabilizing the film. Mario remains the straightest line through the story. Others can spiral outward. Most importantly, Mario's voice in this ensemble seems designed to mediate between multiple tonal zones. He belongs with Luigi in domestic brother driven comedy. He belongs with Peach in strategic kingdom based adventure. He belongs with Rosalina in scenes of galactic discovery. He belongs opposite Bowser in broad villain hero confrontation. A less flexible central casting choice would force the movie to choose one mode over the others. This one appears intended to hold the modes together. That is why, regardless of public debates over the choice, the casting logic is comprehensible. Mario is not being voiced as a niche character performance, he is being voiced as the franchise's universal connector. Charlie Day's Luigi becomes even more valuable in a galaxy centered movie than in a standard Mario adventure because Luigi naturally introduces vulnerability into a setting that might otherwise become too sleek or too visually overwhelming. In voice ensemble terms, Luigi is emotional elasticity. He bends toward fear, panic, confusion, enthusiasm, loyalty, and accidental courage, often within the same stretch of dialogue. In a world of stars, observatories, and cosmic danger, that elasticity is essential. It humanizes scale. Luigi also serves a structural purpose that few other characters can. Mario often has to act decisively. Luigi can afford to hesitate. That hesitation is dramatically useful because it allows the movie to acknowledge the strangeness of its own setting. If Rosalina's world is wondrous, Luigi is the one most likely to voice that wonder as uncertainty. If a tiny planet has bizarre gravity or a Luma says something mystical, Luigi can react in a way that validates the audience's own astonishment. He therefore prevents the film from feeling emotionally over adapted to its fantasy. Someone still has to sound surprised. The brother pairing matters all the more when a movie expands the number of large personalities around them. Bowser is huge, Peach is forceful. Rosalina is ethereal, Toad is energetic, Yoshi can be lively and scene stealing. Luigi prevents Mario from becoming a solitary audience. Instead, Mario's perspective is split into active confidence and anxious response. That duality lets the movie carry exposition, jokes, and emotional beats with greater flexibility. One brother can accept the call to adventure while the other questions it. One can rush forward while the other notices the danger. One can be inspired by Rosalina's scale while the other is intimidated by it. The result is tonal balance. There is also a deeper reason Luigi's casting matters in a film with Rosalina and the Lumas. Galaxy stories often risk leaning too far into sweetness or solemnity. Luigi punctures both. He can protect sentiment from becoming saccharine and grandeur from becoming pompous. That is not a small function. Family animation frequently depends on one performer who can keep a scene emotionally alive without flattening it into cynicism. Day's voice persona is good at that. He can be frantic without becoming grating, earnest without becoming dull, and scared without losing likability. If the movie uses Luigi in a more separated or rescue oriented role at any point, the casting still pays off because audience investment in Luigi does not rely on conventional heroism, it relies on affection. In a galaxy setting, affection is especially useful because much of the emotional impact may come from the contrast between intimate relationships and enormous backdrops. Luigi makes that contrast work. He sounds small in a good way. He sounds like someone carrying regular human fears into extraordinary spaces. That quality rounds out the film's casting strategy. If Mario is the anchor of momentum, Luigi is the anchor of feeling. Brie Larson as Rosalina is the casting choice most likely to define how people talk about the film's identity. Rosalina is not only a fan favorite character, she is also one of the few Mario characters whose presence immediately implies emotional depth. She is associated with quietness, distance, memory, and a gentler form of authority than Peaches. The decision to give that role to a major star suggests the film wants Rosalina to carry more than ornamental prestige. It wants her to be a true dramatic force. Rosalina requires a careful balance in performance. If voiced too flatly, she becomes remote and cold. If voiced too sweetly, she loses the solemnity that makes her distinct. If voiced too heavily, she can feel like she belongs to another franchise entirely. The casting challenge is therefore not just about celebrity, it is about tonal calibration. A successful Rosalina performance has to sound compassionate without becoming overly familiar, mysterious without becoming inaccessible, and maternal without seeming old fashioned or overly saintly. That is a narrow path, and choosing a high profile actor for it suggests the studio views the role as central enough to warrant that level of attention. Her placement near the top of the cast also encourages a specific reading of the story's emotional architecture. Rosalina often represents the idea that Mario can enter spaces larger than personal ambition or kingdom politics. She widens the moral and visual stakes. In a movie context, that means she can bring a kind of reflective pause that action heavy franchise animation sometimes lacks. The film may still be full of movement, humor, and confrontation, but Rosalina's casting implies room for stillness. That stillness does not mean inactivity, it means emotional spaciousness. A galaxy movie should feel like it has room to breathe, and Rosalina is the character who most naturally creates that breathing space. The fact that named Lumas are present strengthens this interpretation. Rosalina without Lumas can still work, but Rosalina with Lumali and Yellow Luma suggests that the film is interested in relational tenderness, not just visual iconography. Her character becomes not merely a celestial princess like figure, but a caretaker, guide, and emotional axis around whom smaller beings orbit. In casting terms, that means her scenes can produce a different kind of warmth than the more overtly comic bonds elsewhere in the movie. She may become the personification of the film's gentlest energy. Another interesting dimension of this casting is how it reframes Peach. With a strongly cast Rosalina in the ensemble, Peach is no longer the only female authoritative figure on the heroic side. That creates opportunities for contrast rather than competition. Peach can remain sharp, strategic, and politically grounded. Rosalina can embody patience, mystery, and cosmic perspective. The dual presence of those energy enriches the film's casting texture, especially for younger audiences who may otherwise see all princess characters as interchangeable. This cast list suggests the movie is not making that mistake. Most of all, Rosalina's casting hints that the film may be aiming for a broader emotional spectrum than a straightforward action comedy sequel or spin off. Her very inclusion asks the story to justify her aura. A galaxy movie with Rosalina should feel more expansive, more lyrical, and perhaps more wistful in places. If the performance lands, she could become the role that transforms the project from a fun franchise extension into something with a more distinctive emotional afterglow. Anya Taylor Joy's speech remains a strategically important casting choice because it prevents the heroic side of the film from becoming too diffuse. In a crowded ensemble, there is always a danger that Mario is the only decisive hero while everyone else becomes specialized color. Peach's continuing presence works against that. She gives the cast another voice of command, one that can engage Mario as an equal rather than a dependent or admirer. That matters especially when Rosalina is also present. Without a strong Peach, Rosalina's celestial authority might overshadow the terrestrial leadership of the Mushroom Kingdom. With Peach intact, the film can present two different forms of female strength. Peach also stabilizes the movie's pacing. Rosalina likely slows things down in a purposeful way, creating awe and emotional perspective. Peach does almost the opposite. She sharpens scenes, clarifies goals, and keeps plans moving. In terms of casting chemistry, that makes her crucial whenever the movie risks leaning too far into dreamlike imagery. Peach can cut through uncertainty. She can take a fantastical premise and make it actionable. Her voice, therefore, helps translate galaxy scale events into immediate stakes. Her presence also affects how Mario reads as a protagonist. If Mario is surrounded only by comic allies and loud villains, his heroism becomes too uncomplicated. Peach's competence forces Mario to share heroic space. That is useful because a galaxy film already expands the world vertically and conceptually. The last thing it needs is a flattened interpersonal structure. Keeping Peach prominent ensures the ensemble remains dynamic. Mario does not merely rescue, he collaborates. Luigi does not merely follow, he reacts. Rosalina does not merely guide, she deepens. Peach does not merely support, she leads. From a casting perspective, Peach is also important because she acts as a bridge between the first wave of franchise familiarity and this new cosmic chapter. Viewers who came to the Mario film universe through the Core Kingdom cast still need a recognizable emotional route into the sequel or spin off's wider mythology. Peach provides that continuity. Her voice can enter Rosalina's world without feeling alien to the audience because she is already one of the established emotional entry points. That kind of continuity is often underrated, but it matters immensely in franchise expansion. The familiar voice helps legitimize the new setting. If the movie gives Peach meaningful interactions with Rosalina, the casting could become one of the film's quiet strengths. Those characters occupy different symbolic zones within the Mario canon, yet both can be dignified, capable, and compassionate. A good voice pairing would allow the movie to distinguish them clearly without forcing a rivalry. The cast list suggests the film at least has the ingredients for that. Peach can remain heroic authority in the present tense, while Rosalina embodies a longer, gentler cosmic wisdom. Together, they make the heroic side of the cast feel unusually layered for a Mario adaptation. The villain side of the casting is one of the smartest looking aspects of the ensemble because it does not rely on Bowser alone. Jack Black as Bowser already guarantees theatrical force, oversized personality, and comic menace. But adding Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. and Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek implies a more textured antagonistic unit rather than a single dominant villain with disposable henchmen. That has major consequences for energy, humor, and narrative flexibility. Bowser in voice performance thrives when allowed to be simultaneously threatening and ridiculous. A Galaxy movie gives him the perfect environment to scale up his grandiosity. However, pure volume can become repetitive if not offset by relational dynamics. Bowser Jr. solves that problem by introducing inheritance, imitation impatience, and childish volatility into Bowser's orbit. If Bowser is the giant emotional storm of the villain camp, Bowser Jr. can be the sparkler, smaller, more mischievous, more impulsive, and capable of creating a different comedic rhythm. Casting someone distinct in that role suggests the film wants the villain side to have internal momentum. Kamek, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, completes the triangle. Kamek traditionally occupies the space of magical facilitator, advisor, fixer, and long suffering loyalist. In ensemble terms, that makes him invaluable. He can translate Bowser's chaotic ambition into actual plans, react to Bowser Jr. recklessness, and provide a deeper, more textured voice in scenes that would otherwise be pure comic bluster. Richardson's vocal presence is especially suited to characters who need weight without stiffness. A Galaxy movie may ask Kamek to bridge fantasy grandeur and villain comedy, and that is exactly the sort of role where strong vocal authority pays off. This three-part villain structure creates tonal range on the antagonistic side. Bowser brings bombast, Bowser Jr. brings bratty unpredictability, Kamek brings darkly competent support. Together, they can carry scenes that are funny, threatening, or plot driven without needing constant interruption from the heroes. That matters because Galaxy stories often benefit from cuts back to the villain side that feel like events in themselves rather than exposition dumps. A well cast villain unit can make the whole movie feel bigger simply by being dramatically alive when the protagonists are off screen. There is also a thematic advantage here. Rosalina and the Lumas create one version of found or chosen cosmic family. Bowser Bowser Jr. and Kamek create a warped counterpart, possessive, hierarchical, explosive, but still relational. Films often become richer when heroic and villainous structures echo each other in distorted ways. The casting list makes that possible. The warm centrality of Mario and Luigi contrasts with the abrasive familial energy of Bowser's side. Rosalina's gentle guardianship contrasts with Bowser's domineering force. Kamek's service can be set against Peach's leadership or Rosalina's guidance. Even without overcommitting to plot speculation, the casting invites these oppositions. Most importantly, Bowser Jr. inclusion indicates the film is not content to merely repeat the first movie's villain setup. A Galaxy title could have relied solely on Bowser's upgraded scale. Instead, the cast list suggests the antagonistic side is also expanding in character terms. That gives the movie more room for subplots, betrayals, tantrums, tenderness twisted into villain logic, or comic incompetence nested within genuine danger. It is a more interesting configuration than a one note threat, and the casting reflects that. If Rosalina adds grace and Bowser adds spectacle, then Yoshi and Toad help guarantee movement. Donald Glover as Yoshi is one of the most intriguing choices in the cast because Yoshi has always occupied an unusual place in Mario stories. He is beloved, instantly recognizable, expressive, and capable of carrying both cuteness and coolness, yet he can easily be underused if reduced to mount, mascot, or one note comic relief. Assigning a prominent actor to the role suggests that Yoshi may be positioned as a real personality within the ensemble rather than a visual accessory. Yoshi is especially useful in a galaxy setting because he embodies physical play. Even when the environments become surreal, Yoshi's very presence keeps the film connected to tactile adventure, running, jumping, swallowing, traversing, improvising. In voice terms, that means Yoshi can bring a kind of loose kinetic charisma that offsets Rosalina's calm and peach precision. If the movie is smart, Yoshi scenes will not just be cute interruptions. They will restore velocity and body based comedy to a world at risk of becoming too airy. Keegan Michael Key's Toad serves a different but equally necessary function. Toad is verbal acceleration. He increases scene tempo, injects panic or confidence at high speed, and can make exposition feel playful. In a galaxy movie, that is enormously useful. Science fantasy settings often require a lot of world explanation, emotional clarification, or mission setup. Toad can help carry that information without making the film feel heavy. He's the cast's built in pressure valve. When something becomes too solemn, too strategic, or too cosmically abstract, Toad can bring it back to fun. Together, Yoshi and Toad prevent the middle of the cast from collapsing into strict hero villain polarity. Not every scene should be about Mario opposing Bowser or learning from Rosalina. Franchise animation needs mobile, versatile support characters who can enrich chases, side missions, rescue sequences, and comic transitions. This cast seems aware of that. Yoshi can create physical spectacle, Toad can create conversational spectacle. One is momentum in motion, the other is momentum in language. There is also a franchise building logic to keeping characters like Toad and Yoshi prominent. A galaxy film is, by definition, an expansion outward. But expansion only works if the audience still feels connected to the franchise's recognizable personality palette. Toad brings Mushroom Kingdom familiarity, Yoshi brings long running fan affection. Their casting tells viewers that despite the cosmic scale, this is still fundamentally Mario. The movie is widening the sky, not abandoning the ground beneath it. If used well, these supporting roles can also help the film manage its tonal transitions. A jump from Bowser's theatrical villainy to Rosalina's quiet mysticism could be jarring in a less carefully calibrated ensemble. Characters like Toad and Yoshi help smooth those shifts. They are adaptable enough to belong almost anywhere in the movie's tonal spectrum. That makes them indispensable. And the casting choices reflect recognition that side character energy is not secondary in a film like this. It is part of the mechanism that keeps the whole machine lively. One of the most fascinating aspects of the cast is the presence of characters that make the project feel broader, stranger, and potentially more playful than a straightforward adaptation of one game storyline. Glenn Powell as Fox McCloud instantly catches the eye because Fox belongs to a neighboring Nintendo universe rather than the standard Mario roster. Whether the role is substantial cameo sized or used for a specific story function, its very inclusion changes the imaginative boundaries of the movie. It suggests that the film may not view the galaxy concept merely as a Mario setting, but as an opportunity to widen Nintendo's cinematic possibilities. Fox McCloud's casting does several things at once. It injects a little extra coolness into the ensemble. It hints at cross franchise ambition. It also suggests that the movie might want moments of sleek action or interstellar confidence that contrast with Mario's more earnest heroism. Fox, as a concept, feels more pilot oriented, militarized, or space operatic than Mario. Even a brief appearance could alter the flavor of the film by implying that the galaxy is populated by figures beyond the Mushroom Kingdom mythos. That is a powerful idea in a franchise building context. Luis Guzman as Watt is equally interesting, though for different reasons. Watt is not the most obvious villain choice in a modern Mario movie, which makes his inclusion feel deliberate. He brings a weirder, more old school, dreamlike flavor from a different branch of Mario history. In a galaxy centered film, that kind of deep cut villain or supporting antagonist can enrich the world by making it feel less curated around only the most marketable figures. What implies memory, strangeness, and a willingness to pull from unusual corners of the franchise. Casting him gives the movie a hint of unpredictability. Issa Rae as Honey Queen is another telling choice because Honey Queen is a character strongly associated with the specific texture of Super Mario Galaxy as a place full of distinct planetary societies and whimsical creatures. Honey Queen is not a generic supporting figure. She signals that the film may actually want to visit the odd, oversized, planet based communities that give Galaxy its identity. That is encouraging because a movie can borrow Rosalina and star imagery without fully embracing the eccentricity of the game worlds. Honey Queen's inclusion suggests the film might be leaning into that eccentricity rather than avoiding it. Ed Scudder as ROB adds still another tonal note. ROB carries a retro tech aura that fits well with the toy box archive and crossover qualities often present in Nintendo adaptations. In a Galaxy movie, ROB could embody a bridge between cute retro machinery and futuristic space adventure. He feels different from Toad, Yoshi, or the Lumas. His presence suggests that the movie is interested in texture, not just star power. It wants the universe to feel inhabited by varied kinds of beings and iconography. Roxana Ortega's Ukiki rounds out that sense of planetary specificity. Ukiki is the type of character whose inclusion tells fans the filmmakers may be paying attention to setting details, not just marquee names. The galaxy concept depends on the feeling that each location has its own local weirdness, inhabitants, and miniature culture. Characters like Ukiki and Honey Queen help deliver that. They make the film feel less like a generic cosmic fantasy with Mario skins on top and more like a potentially authentic adaptation of the Galaxy game's eccentric ecosystem. Collectively, these surprise casting choices may end up doing more for the movie's identity than some of the top billed names. Famous leads get attention, but unusual side roles create texture. Texture is what makes a world feel worth revisiting. The cast list implies a movie that wants to be broad, yes, but also oddly specific. That is an encouraging combination. The Lumas may prove to be the quiet heart of the entire casting setup. In many fantasy films, cosmic scale is communicated through architecture, lighting, music, and exposition. In Mario Galaxy, cosmic scale is also communicated through tiny, childlike star beings who make the universe feel intimate. That intimacy is one of the reasons the Galaxy games are remembered with such affection. They are huge in concept but soft in feeling. A film adaptation can only capture that if it takes the Lumas seriously as emotional instruments rather than visual mascots. The cast list indicates that the movie is doing exactly that by naming Lumali and Yellow Luma separately. Lumali, in particular, carries a strange tonal history in Mario screen adaptations because the character can be cute, eerie, existential, and funny all at once depending on interpretation. Listing Juliet Jelinek as Lumali suggests the movie is not collapsing all Luma presence into an anonymous chorus. It is assigning personality. That matters because personality is what allows tiny cosmic creatures to shape emotional tone rather than merely decorate it. Yellow Luma, voiced by Virginia Dare Jelinek, further suggests that the film may want different Lumas to fill different narrative and emotional functions. One Luma can be comic, another can be innocent, another can act as Rosalina's closest companion, another can guide Mario or Luigi through a planetary challenge. Once individual Lumas are voiced as characters, the whole cosmic setting becomes more relational. The stars are no longer background, they speak, react, worry, and bond. This choice is also important for Rosalina. Her character becomes richer when the audience can witness not just her grandeur but her caretaking. Lumas externalize Rosalina's warmth. Without them, she risks being treated as an elegant icon. With them, she becomes emotionally active. She listens, reassures, protects, and grieves. That is part of why the casting of the Lumas matters, even if the names attached to them are not the biggest in the ensemble. Supporting emotional architecture often determines whether a major character lands. The Lumas are Rosalina's emotional architecture. There is additionally a tonal advantage to using Lumas prominently in a villain heavy, action heavy film. They introduce innocence without forcing the heroes themselves to become too childlike. Mario can remain energetic, Luigi can remain nervous, Peach can remain capable, Rosalina can remain serene. The Lumas then carry the youngest, purest emotional notes. That distribution is useful in family animation because it allows the movie to speak to children directly without flattening the older characters into broad educational archetypes. The inclusion of named Lumas also suggests that the filmmaker understand one of the key truths of Mario Galaxy. Wonder is not only visual, wonder is relational. It comes from how small beings make a vast universe feel inhabitable. It comes from tenderness surviving scale. The casting list seems to recognize that, and that may be one of the best signs for the adaptation's emotional authenticity. A great deal can be learned from the unusually extensive additional voices list. When an animated film assembles a large bench of voice talent beyond the headline cast, it often indicates one of two things. Either the movie is packed with crowd scenes, species variation, and location specific side characters, or it wants vocal flexibility to build a very dense sonic world. In this case, the additional voices roster strongly suggests both. A Galaxy movie should not sound sparse, it should sound inhabited. This part of the casting is easy to overlook because it lacks marquee glamour, but it may be where much of the movie's actual texture is created. Planetary worlds need passers-by, shopkeepers, guards, creatures, announcers, attendants, background personalities, and one scene oddballs. A big additional voice lineup tells you the film likely intends to populate its locations richly. That is especially important for a Galaxy adaptation because the games are built around the feeling that every world, however small, has its own life. The presence of experienced voice performers in the additional voices group also suggests a practical seriousness about animation craft. Celebrity casting can attract headlines, but specialized voice actors often carry the connective tissue of the movie. They create believable crowds, strange aliens, tiny creatures, and scene specific comedy. If the film moves quickly from observatories to bee kingdoms to villain strongholds to odd little planets, that connective tissue becomes essential. The audience may not consciously notice it, but they will feel the difference between a world that sounds lived in and one that sounds thin. There is also something revealing about how many cast and crew names overlap in multiple categories. Eric Osmond appears as both editor and additional voice performer. Monia Ayachi appears in the cast and in sound related work. Michael Jelenic and members of the Jelenic family appear in performance roles as well. That kind of overlap can imply a production culture that is highly collaborative especially in animation where scratch performances, incidental dialogue, and development stage vocal experimentation often contribute to the final personality of the film. It gives the cast list a slightly handcrafted feel amid the blockbuster scale. From a storytelling standpoint, a dense additional voices roster increases the odds that the film will preserve the Galaxy game's sense of episodic variety. One of the pleasures of those games is that you are always arriving somewhere new and meeting some new species, guardian, or local figure. An adaptation that stripped all that away in favor of only the main stars would lose much of the source material's charm. This cast list implies the opposite approach. It suggests multiplicity, surprise, and abundance. In a broader franchise sense, the additional voices also future proof the movie. A richly voiced universe can spin off characters, memes, favorite background figures, and future recurring personalities. Audiences often latch onto tiny supporting moments in animated features, and those moments depend on having performers who can make even brief lines memorable. So, while the top billing sells the film, the larger voice bench may be what makes the universe feel durable. Although the user's request is focused on casting, casting never exists in isolation. The credited directors Aaron Horvath, Michael Jelinek, Pierre Leduc, and Fabian Pollack, alongside writer Matthew Fogel, help explain why this ensemble looks the way it does. Voice casting reflects not just who is available or marketable, but what sort of tonal blend the filmmakers are aiming for. A cast that includes both major celebrities and substantial network of voice specialists usually points to filmmaking to balance brand expansion with animated specificity. The fact that the script is credited to Matthew Fogel also matters because writing shapes what kinds of performances are useful. A densely comedic script demands different voices than a more adventure driven or emotionally reflective one. Looking at the cast as a whole, the likely aim seems to be hybridity. Broad comedy from established returning characters, elevated emotional texture from Rosalina and the Lumas, theatrical villainy from Bowser's camp, and world building elasticity from an expansive support roster. That combination suggests the creative team does not want a single note film. The casting feels built for modulation, the directorial structure is interesting too. Multiple directors and co directors in animation often reflect the sheer logistical size of the project, but they can also indicate need to manage different dimensions of tone and spectacle. A galaxy movie is inherently complicated. It must handle action geography, fantasy design, comedy beats, emotional pauses, and major ensemble coordination. A cast this weight makes sense in that context. Different parts of the movie may lean on different performance styles, and the film's leadership appears arranged to support that breadth. The producing presence of Christopher Meledandri and Shigeru Miyamoto also indirectly frames the casting. One side brings mainstream animated feature packaging instincts. The other side represents franchise stewardship and brand sensitivity. A cast that includes major stars, deep cut game characters, and a careful spread of returning voices fits that combined logic. It is commercially visible while still signaling awareness of what fans associate with Mario Galaxy specifically. Brian Tyler as composer is not a casting element in the narrow sense, but music deeply affects how voice performances are received. Rosalina's scenes, Bowser's scenes, Luma scenes, and planetary showcases will all be filtered through score. A cast like this, which seems designed around tonal variety, benefits from a composer who can shift between heroic propulsion, cosmic grandeur, and playful whimsy. The same line can land differently depending on its musical environment. That means the cast list, while compelling on its own, likely makes even more sense when imagined inside the audio architecture the production is building. So while the headline discussion remains casting, the credits around that casting suggest a movie designed as a large scale ensemble fantasy rather than a simple hero villain chase. The performers appear to have been selected not merely for isolated roles, but for how they would function inside a broader tonal machine. That is usually a sign of a production thinking in terms of total experience rather than just poster names. Taken as a whole, the casting points toward a film trying to accomplish several things at once without collapsing into chaos. It wants continuity with the broader animated Mario universe through Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, and Bowser. It wants to elevate the emotional and visual register through Rosalina and the Lumas. It wants to widen the antagonistic structure through Bowser Jr. and Kamek. It wants to preserve playful eccentricity through Honey Queen, Ukiki, Wart, and ROB, and it may want to flirt with wider Nintendo cinematic possibility through Fox McCloud. That is not a random list. It is a blueprint for a movie that aims to feel larger, stranger, and more emotionally varied than a standard kingdom bound Mario adventure. The smartest thing about the casting is that it does not treat Galaxy as a purely visual upgrade. Too many adaptations would hear that word and simply think bigger explosions, more planets, more stars, and higher stakes. This cast implies a more nuanced reading. Galaxy also means gentleness, melancholy, multiplicity, little worlds, unusual creatures, and a sense that vastness can still feel cozy. Rosalina and the Lumas are the clearest signs of that. Honey Queen and Ukiki reinforce it. The additional voices roster supports it. Even the presence of what suggests an embrace of dreamlike oddness rather than only militarized spectacle. At the same time, the casting is commercially pragmatic. The familiar returning names keep the project accessible. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, and Bowser remain the recognizable spine. That is essential because Mario Galaxy as a concept is more fantastical and potentially more emotionally abstract than basic Mushroom Kingdom conflict. The cast protects the movie from drifting too far away from mass audience readability. It expands while holding on. There is also a notable layering of energy types across the ensemble. Mario is direct and active, Luigi is elastic and reactive. Peach is firm and strategic, Rosalina is serene and expansive, Bowser is explosive and theatrical, Bowser Jr. is impetuous, Kamek is controlled, Toad is hyperverbal, Yoshi is kinetic, the Lumas are tender, Honey Queen is whimsical. Fox McCloud suggests cool externality, Watt suggests weirdness. This layering is what makes ensemble casting feel intentional rather than crowded. Each role seems chosen to provide a different flavor of presence. If the movie succeeds, much of that success may come from exactly this balance. A galaxy story should feel like a constellation, not a line. It should contain different lights, different temperatures, different rhythms. Based on the cast, the film appears to understand that. Its lineup does not simply promise star names, it promises contrast, texture, and tonal breadth. That is what makes the casting interesting beyond pure fandom hype. It suggests a project that may actually know what makes Mario Galaxy beloved, not only scale, but feeling. Not only spectacle, but atmosphere. Not only heroes and villains, but the strange and wonderful beings between them. In that sense, the cast is doing narrative work before the movie is even seen. It tells audiences that this is not just Mario in space, it is a Mario film trying to capture a more dreamlike branch of the franchise while still remaining funny, accessible, and event sized. Whether every choice pays off on screen is another question. But on paper, the casting is ambitious in the right direction. It indicates confidence that Mario Galaxy deserves not just adaptation but tonal distinction. And that is exactly what a movie with this title should aim for. Production development and pre production, the road toward the Super Mario Galaxy movie was neither short nor straightforward. It was paved with years of speculation, industry whispers, and careful strategic thinking on the part of Nintendo and Illumination Entertainment, the animation studio that had already proven it could handle the beloved Italian plumber's big screen ambitions. The roots of what would become one of 2006 most commercially potent films can be traced back to a deceptively simple public statement made in May 2001, more than 2 years before the first Mario movie had even reached theaters. Nintendo's president Shuntaro Furukawa announced at that time that the company was actively interested in producing more animated films based on its vast library of intellectual properties, provided that the then untitled Mario film proved to be a success with audiences. It was a conditional statement, one that hedged the company's bets before it had any box office data to rely on. Nintendo's history with Hollywood adaptations was, after all, not without its complications. The 1993 live action Super Mario Bros. Film had been a critical and commercial disaster that left a bad taste in the mouths of franchise fans for decades, and Nintendo had spent the intervening years being extraordinarily cautious about licensing its properties to other studios. The Illumination partnership represented a new, more collaborative approach, but the company was not about to fully commit to a cinematic universe without seeing how audiences responded. As it turned out, audience responded with extraordinary enthusiasm. When the Super Mario Bros. Movie opened in April 2023, it demolished box office projections and set record after record. The film ultimately earned over 1.3 billion worldwide, making it one of the most commercially successful animated films ever made. It overtook The Secret Life of Pets as Illumination's highest grossing film at the global box office, and it demonstrated with remarkable clarity that there was a vast hungry audience for Nintendo based animated storytelling. Almost immediately, the conversations that had previously been theoretical became very real. In a variety cover story published around the time of the first film's release in April 2023, Illumination CEO and producer Chris Meledandri was asked directly about the possibility of a sequel or further Nintendo adaptations. His response was carefully measured. The focus at that moment was entirely on bringing the existing film to audiences, and the company was not yet prepared to discuss what might come next. It was the language of a studio executive who understood that speculation needed to be managed, not extinguished. Behind closed doors, however, conversations were already taking shape. By April 2003, in the immediate afterglow of the first film's staggering debut, Nintendo issued a statement confirming that more films based on their properties were in active development. They stopped short of formally confirming a direct sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but the implication was unmistakable. In June 2003, Chris Pratt, who voiced Mario in the first film, told media outlets that a sequel announcement would be coming soon. Though he noted that the 2023 Writers Guild of America strike was a complicating factor that would have some effect on the production timeline. The WGA strike, which ran for several months in 2023 and brought much of Hollywood's development pipeline to a halt, delayed script work on numerous projects, and the Mario sequel was among them. Despite the strike related complications, interest in the sequel continued to build publicly. In December 2023, Jack Black, who had become a fan favorite for his energetic, genuinely devoted portrayal of Bowser, expressed in interviews his personal enthusiasm about what a sequel could be. Black pitched the idea of the follow up being a full scale musical, specifically suggesting the title Bowser's Revenge. The idea caught on with fans immediately and generated considerable online conversation, though it was ultimately not the direction the film took. Still, Black's obvious passion for the character and his eagerness to return spoke volumes about the creative investment the cast had made in the first film. The official confirmation finally arrived on March 10 before during a Mario Day presentation. Mario Day, celebrated annually on March 10th because the abbreviated date Mar 10 resembles the name Mario, had become an important marketing occasion for Nintendo, and the company used the 2024 edition to make a significant announcement. Meledandri and series creator Shigeru Miyamoto appeared together to confirm that a new Super Mario Bros. Movie was in active development at Illumination. Crucially, the creative team from the first film was returning. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, who had co-directed the 2003 picture, were confirmed as directors of the sequel. And Matthew Fogel, who had written the screenplay for the first film, was returning as screenwriter. Meledandri offered some tantalizing early details about where the production stood. The team was already in the process of storyboarding the film and developing set designs for new environments. This was significant information. Storyboarding is one of the first concrete steps in animated film production, and it indicated that the sequel was already substantially underway. The confirmation that set designs were being created for new environments hinted at the ambitious scope the filmmakers were envisioning, one that would take the characters well beyond the Mushroom Kingdom settings of the first film. In October 2024, Keegan Michael Key, who voiced Toad in the first film, gave an interview in which he teased the nature of the sequel without revealing specific plot details. Key described the follow up as broader in scope than its predecessor and mentioned that viewers could expect to encounter new folks and old favorites and some folks that I think are really deep cuts. The phrase deep cuts was particularly evocative for Mario franchise devotees, suggesting that the filmmakers were prepared to reach into the broader lore of the Nintendo universe and bring out characters who had not been prominently featured in major media before. This teaser generated significant fan speculation and began setting expectations for the kind of expansive, fan service rich adventure the sequel would deliver. Sir Chris Meledandri, in a separate interview around this period, spoke more specifically about the film's inspirations. While he confirmed that the Super Mario Galaxy games would serve as the film's core creative inspiration, he was careful to note that the movie would also include surprise for fans of every Mario era. This framing was revealing. The filmmakers were not simply trying to adapt a single game, but were instead using the Galaxy games as a structural and thematic jumping off point while incorporating elements, characters, and references from across the entire history of the Mario franchise. It was an approach that matched the philosophy of the first film, which had similarly blended specific game aesthetics with broader franchise nostalgia. The title was formally revealed on September 12th, 2005 during a Nintendo Direct presentation. The film would be called the Super Mario Galaxy movie, officially tying it to the beloved 2007 Wii game and its 2010 sequel, Super Mario Galaxy 2. Along with the title reveal, Nintendo confirmed the returning cast members: Chris Pratt as Mario, Anya Taylor Joy as Princess Peach, Charlie Day as Luigi, Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan Michael Key as Toad, and Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek. It was also confirmed that Brian Tyler, who had composed the score for the first film, would be returning to handle the music for the sequel. The response to the title reveal was immediate and enthusiastic, particularly among fans of the Galaxy games, which are widely considered to be among the finest entries in the entire Mario series. 2 months after the title reveal on November 12, 2025, Nintendo hosted a dedicated Nintendo Direct presentation focused entirely on the new film. This presentation served as the formal debut of the film's first trailer and carried with it two major new casting announcements. Brie Larson was revealed to be joining the cast as Princess Rosalina, the ethereal, story-rich character who serves as the guide and protagonist of the Galaxy games. The casting of Larson, an Academy Award winner known for her roles in Room and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, was both surprising and inspired. It turned out to have personal resonance. Larson had publicly declared herself a fan of Super Mario Galaxy as far back as 2000, when she had mentioned in an interview that she took the game so seriously that it had become a point of tension in a personal relationship. Alongside Larson's casting, the November Direct confirmed that Benny Safdie, one half of the acclaimed filmmaking duo the Safdie brothers, would voice Bowser Jr., the mischievous and emotionally complex son of the main villain. Safdie's casting was seen as an interesting artistic choice, bringing an indie film credibility to the voice cast of what was otherwise a mainstream blockbuster franchise. The first trailer itself was widely celebrated, offering audiences a visually stunning glimpse of the cosmic environments the film would explore and establishing the key character dynamics that would drive the narrative. The development process continued to generate news in the months leading up to the film's release. On March 9, 2026, with the release of the film's final trailer, it was revealed that traditional cast members had joined the project. Donald Glover, the actor and musician known for his work on Atlanta, the Childish Gambino musical project, and various film roles, was announced as the voice of Yoshi, Mario's lovable dinosaur companion. The casting of Glover as Yoshi proved to be one of the most beloved announcements of the entire production, with fans expressing immediate enthusiasm at the combination of the character and performer. Glover had, according to reports, actively pitched himself for the role after seeing the first film. Also announced at this point were Issa Rae and Luis Guzman as additional cast members, though the specific characters they would portray were not immediately disclosed. Days before the film's theatrical release on March 7, 2006, one final casting surprise was unveiled. Glenn Powell, who had become a major Hollywood star through his work in Top Gun, Maverick, and various subsequent roles, had joined the film as Fox McCloud, the protagonist of Nintendo's Star Fox franchise. Powell, like Glover, had reportedly pitched himself for the part after the first film's success. The inclusion of Fox McCloud represented the film's most significant crossover moment with the broader Nintendo universe, moving beyond the Mario franchise itself to bring in a character from an entirely separate game series. Filming the Super Mario Galaxy movie was produced entirely through digital animation, as is standard practice for feature length animated films of this scale. There is no traditional filming in the photographic sense. Instead, the production process involves voice recording sessions, which are typically conducted before or during the animation process, followed by the extensive digital work of creating the film's visuals. The animation studio responsible for bringing the film to life was Illumination Studios Paris, the French production house that Illumination established in Paris, France, and which had also handled the animation for the first Mario film. Illumination Studios Paris has over the years developed a reputation for producing some of the most visually distinctive and technically accomplished animation in the contemporary industry. The studio's approach combines a characteristic visual style, one marked by vivid colors, expressive character design, and energetic motion, with sophisticated rendering technology capable of achieving effects that would have been impossible in earlier generations of animation. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the studio faced the particular creative challenge of translating the cosmic gravity defying environments of the Galaxy games into a cinematic context. The games are celebrated for their spherical planetoid level designs, their innovative gravity mechanics, and their breathtaking outer space vistas, all of which needed to be rendered with a fidelity and dynamism appropriate for a major theatrical release. Production was formally underway by March 2024, as confirmed during the Mario Day announcement. The animation process for a major studio release of this kind typically takes between 2 and 3 years from initial production start to final completion, making the March 2024 start date entirely consistent with the film's April 2026 theatrical release. The production involved not only the creation of entirely new environments and characters, but also the continued development of characters and design elements carried over from the first film, updated and refined for the new story's requirements. Voice recording for the film was conducted throughout the production period, with actors recording their lines in studio sessions. The voice recording process for animated films is often collaborative and iterative, with directors and writers present to guide performances and sometimes adjust dialogue in real time based on how lines land when spoken aloud. For a film with as large and distinguished a cast as the Super Mario Galaxy movie, coordinating the recording schedules of multiple busy actors is itself a significant logistical undertaking. The returning cast members, including Pratt, Taylor Joy, Day, Black, Key, and Richardson, were able to bring their established understanding of their characters to the sessions, while the new additions needed to develop fresh interpretations of characters who had not previously appeared in the film franchise. The animation process itself proceeded through several stages. Following initial storyboarding and previs work, the production team created rough animation passes that established the basic movement and timing of each scene. These rough passes were then refined through multiple layers of work by the studio's animation team, with each iteration bringing greater detail, expressiveness, and polish to the characters and environments. The cosmic settings of the Galaxy films presented unique opportunities for the animators, who were able to create sequences that played with scale, perspective, and gravity in ways that a more conventional setting would not allow. Animation on the film was completed in November 2000 EFI, a milestone that marked the end of the primary production phase and the transition into post production. The November completion date, approximately 5 months before the film's April 2026 theatrical release, provided what would prove to be a somewhat tight but workable window for the post production work that remained to be done. Post production in January 2026, Chris Meledandri confirmed in a public statement that animation had been fully completed and that post production had begun. Post production for an animated film of this scale encompasses a wide range of activities, including final color grading, sound design, the integration of the musical score, the creation of visual effects elements that are added in post, and the assembly of the final cut of the film. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, this phase also involved the preparation of multiple theatrical formats, including the standard 2D presentation, Real D, 3D, and IMAX versions of the film. The preparation of the IMAX version was a particularly significant undertaking. IMAX screenings command premium ticket prices and require the film to be formatted and optimized for the larger screen dimensions and higher resolution projection systems that IMAX theaters use. The decision to release the film in IMAX was a strong commercial signal, as studios typically reserve IMAX releases for their biggest tentpole properties, and the format proved to be an important revenue driver during the film's theatrical run. According to reporting from the film's opening weekend, PLFs, IMAX, and 3D formats collectively drove 44% of North American ticket sales, with IMAX alone accounting for approximately 8% of total tickets sold across 430 screens and generating approximately $15 million in its opening weekend. The color grading process for the film was designed to capture the specific visual palette of the Galaxy games, which are characterized by deep cosmic blacks, vibrant nebula colors, and the bright primary hued environments of the individual planetoids. Achieving a look that felt simultaneously faithful to the games and appropriate for a cinematic presentation required careful calibration throughout the grading process. The film's final visual style, as seen by audiences, represents the culmination of decisions made at every stage of production, from the initial concept art to the final color corrections made during post production. Sound design for the film incorporated not only original sound effects but also audio elements drawn from the long history of the Mario franchise, processed and recontextualized for the film specific scenes and environments. The integration of the musical score, discussed in greater detail in the music section below, was another major component of the post production phase, with composer Brian Tyler's work being carefully synchronized with the film's visual editing to maximize its emotional and narrative impact. The post production phase also includes the preparation of marketing materials derived from the finished film, including the final trailer released on March 9, 2006, which provided audiences with their most complete look at the film before its release. This final trailer was notable for its revelation of the additional cast members who had joined the project and gave a sense of the film's broad scope and the variety of environments and characters it would feature. It generated substantial online engagement and contributed to the marketing momentum that helped drive the film's record breaking opening weekend. Music, one of the most anticipated aspects of the Super Mario Galaxy movie from the moment its existence was confirmed was its music. The Super Mario Galaxy games, released in 2007 and 2010 respectively, are celebrated not only as masterpieces of game design but as significant achievements in video game music. Composed primarily by Mahito Yokota and Koji Kondo, with additional contributions from Shio Fuji, the soundtracks of the Galaxy games introduced full orchestral arrangements to the Mario franchise, creating a musical world of extraordinary breadth and emotional range. Tracks like Gusty Garden Galaxy, Space Junk Galaxy, and the Haunting Rosalina storybook theme have achieved iconic status among gaming enthusiasts and are frequently cited as among the finest pieces of music ever created for a video game, given this rich musical heritage. The question of how the film would handle the Galaxy music was one of the most closely watched aspects of the production. The answer was revealed on September 12, 2005, the same day that the film's title was announced. Brian Tyler, who had composed the original score for the Super Mario Bros. Movie in 2003, would be returning to compose the music for the sequel. Tyler is a prolific Hollywood composer whose credits include the Iron Man, Thor, and Avengers films, as well as the Fast and Furious franchise, making him one of the most commercially successful film composers working today. Tyler's involvement was greeted with considerable enthusiasm, as his work on the first Mario film had been widely praised. His score for the Super Mario Bros. Movie had managed the difficult task of creating original cinematic music for the franchise while also incorporating and reimagining classic Mario themes in ways that felt both nostalgic and fresh. For the Galaxy sequel, Tyler faced an even more specific and potentially more challenging task, creating a score that honored the distinctive orchestral grandeur of the original Galaxy game music while serving the narrative and emotional needs of a feature film. According to reporting published in January 2026, Brian Tyler composed several pieces of the score for the movie while hospitalized, working without informing the hospital staff of the nature of his work. This detail, which emerged through industry coverage of the post production phase, adds a remarkable human dimension to the film's creation, speaking to Tyler's dedication to the project and to the intensity of the post production schedule. The fact that Tyler was composing in a hospital bed and chose not to publicize this at the time exposed the professional demands placed on composers during tight post production windows and a personal commitment that went well beyond the ordinary obligations of a hired talent. The film score, as described in reporting from January 2026, is performed by a 70-piece orchestra. This is a significant ensemble, one that allows for the full rich textures of a traditional Hollywood orchestral score. The use of a live orchestra rather than digital or sampled instrumentation reflects both the prestige of the production and the specific tonal qualities that the filmmakers wanted to achieve. Live orchestral recording provides a warmth, depth, and organic expressiveness that digital alternatives, however sophisticated, have historically struggled to fully replicate. Critically, the score features arrangements of themes from both Super Mario Galaxy games as well as other installments in the broader Super Mario series. This approach ensures a degree of musical continuity with the source material that fans of the games would recognize and appreciate, while also allowing Tyler the creative latitude to develop these themes in new directions suited to the film's specific scenes and emotional beats. The inclusion of themes from beyond the Galaxy games speaks to the film's ambition to be a celebration of the entire Mario musical legacy, not merely an adaptation of two specific titles. The soundtrack album for the Super Mario Galaxy movie was released on April 1, 2006, the same day as the film's theatrical opening, through a joint release by Backlot Music and I Am 8-Bit. Backlot Music is a well established film and television music label, while I Am 8-Bit is a label and entertainment company with a particular focus on video game culture and music, making them a fitting partner for a release that bridges cinematic and gaming musical traditions. The simultaneous release of the soundtrack album alongside the film allowed fans who saw the movie on its opening day to immediately access the music in full, a strategy that helped drive engagement across both the film and the album. Released theatrical Super Mario Galaxy movie had its world premiere at the historic Minamiza Theatre in Kyoto, Japan on March 28, 2006, 4 days before its general theatrical release in the United States. The choice of Kyoto for the premiere was deeply meaningful. The city is the home of Nintendo's headquarters, and holding the premiere there honored the game company's roots and the Japanese cultural heritage of the franchise. The Minamiza, one of the oldest surviving kabuki theaters in Japan, provided a setting of historical and cultural significance that underscored the importance of the occasion. The United States theatrical release followed on April 26, distributed by Universal Pictures. The decision to release the film on April 1, coinciding with April Fool's Day, may have struck some observers as an unusual choice, but it proved to be a savvy one. The date fell during school spring break in many parts of the United States, providing a ready audience of children and families, and the proximity to Easter weekend extended the film's effective holiday opening window across 5 days. Universal's theatrical distribution strategy centered on capitalizing on this extended holiday period to maximize the opening weekend's revenue potential. The film was released in both standard and premium formats. The standard 2D presentation was available in the widest number of locations, while Realty 3D and IMAX presentations were offered at premium pricing in equipped theaters. The film screened in 4,252 North American theaters at opening, with 451 of those being IMAX screens and 1,345 being premium large format venues. The breadth of the release, particularly the substantial IMAX footprint, reflected Universal and Illumination's confidence in the film's ability to drive premium format ticket sales. The marketing campaign leading up to the film's theatrical release was extensive and carefully orchestrated. NBC Universal leveraged its ownership of both Universal Pictures and NBC to place promotional content across multiple platforms. During the 2026 Winter Olympics, which aired on NBC and its sister networks, the film received substantial promotional exposure, including custom spot featuring Peach and Yoshi themed around the Olympic Games. There were also advertising placements during the Super Bowl and NBA All-Star Weekend, events that guarantee massive television audiences. These high profile placements helped ensure that awareness of the film extended well beyond the core audience of Mario game fans. March 10 Ocean 6 Mario Day, or MR10 Day, proved to be a pivotal moment in the marketing campaign. Time to a special Nintendo Direct presentation that featured the film's final trailer. The day generated more than 160 million media impressions in a single 24-hour period. In Japan, Mario Day served as the official launch of ticket sales, beginning at 2 p.m. Pacific time on March 9. Theater owners around the world participated in the marketing of Day through special in theater signage, exclusive concessions and merchandise giveaways, and the reveal of special themed popcorn containers. Among the most discussed of these was a Bowser cauldron shaped popcorn container that became a Guinness World Record holder for the smallest popcorn container ever created. A Yoshi popcorn bucket was also introduced, both items quickly becoming sought after collector's items. Social media engagement surrounding the film was tracked by Relish Mix at say 5.6 million across TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, X formerly Twitter, and Instagram, a figure that represented 21% above the norm for family animated franchise titles. This level of organic social media engagement indicated a passionate, mobilized fan base ready to show up at theaters from the moment the film opened. Among the promotional tie-ins that accompanied the film's release were partnerships with General Mills, which released Super Mario Galaxy movie-themed versions of Trix and Lucky Charms cereals; Jack's Pacific, which renewed its master global toy partnership with Universal products and experiences for the film; Old Spice, which launched a full product line tied to the film; and Bubbly Sparkling Water, which created themed flavors and cans, including a special hidden Rosalina Galaxy can that became collector's item. The Japanese theatrical release followed on April 24, 2015, a gap of more than 3 weeks from the United States opening. which had been noted by some observers as a factor that might affect the film's international box office performance, given the potential for unauthorized distribution to affect markets before they receive the official release. Japan opened the film at number one with a total box office of 9.8 million, slightly behind the comparable opening of the first film, but considered a solid performance given competitive factors and the fact that Japan's theatrical market operates according to its own distinct rhythms. The first film had ultimately earned nearly $102 million in Japan, and the sequel's Japanese total was being watched closely as a potential contributor to the global milestone of 1 billionaire worldwide. The film was originally announced to have a release date of April 3, 2026, but this was subsequently moved to April 1, reflecting the studio's decision to take advantage of the holiday week window. The 2 day shift may seem minor, but in the context of a film's opening weekend calculations, it represents a meaningful strategic adjustment. Home media, the transition of the Super Mario Galaxy movie from theaters to home media was rapid by historical standards, though broadly consistent with the compressed theatrical windows that have become the new normal in the post pandemic film industry. Universal Pictures had earlier in the year formalized a policy of maintaining a minimum theatrical exclusivity window of 5 weekends before releasing films on video on demand platforms, with plans to extend this to 7 weekends starting in 2027. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, this 5 weekend window translated into a digital release that came just 48 days after the film's theatrical opening. Reports of the film's impending digital release date emerged in late April and early May 2026, with the website When to Stream, a reliable tracker of home media release dates, indicating that the film would arrive on video on demand platforms on May 5, 2006. These reports preceded any official announcement from Universal or Nintendo, but When to Stream's track record of accuracy lent the reports considerable credibility. Forbes picked up the story and noted the reliability of the source, contributing to widespread coverage of the anticipated date. The film's UHD digital release was made available for pre-order on Amazon for $29.99, while the rental option was anticipated to be priced at approximately $19.99 for a 48-hour access window. However, the official confirmation from Universal differed from the initially reported date. The Super Mario Galaxy movie was formally announced to be available on digital download starting May 19, 2006, approximately 2 weeks after the earlier reported date. The film was confirmed to be available for purchase on platforms including Apple TV, YouTube Movies and TV, Amazon Prime Video, and Fandango at Home. The 29.99 purchase price for the digital copy was consistent with the premium pricing typically applied to major studio releases during their initial digital release windows. The 39.99 bundle option, which included both the Super Mario Galaxy movie and its predecessor, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, was positioned as an appealing value proposition for fans who want to own both films digitally. This kind of franchise bundle is a common strategy for studios seeking to maximize the commercial value of a successful sequel's home media release while also driving renewed interest in the original title. The streaming rights for the film in the United States were structured according to the terms of Universal's long term deal with Netflix for its animated films. Under this arrangement, the film would first become available on Peacock, NBC Universal streaming service, for a period of 4 months following its pay TV window opening. After this initial Peacock period, the film would move to Netflix for a period of 10 months before returning to Peacock for a final 4 month period. This structured rotation between the two streaming platforms reflects the complex rights arrangements that have become characteristic of the modern streaming landscape, where studios navigate relationships with multiple platforms in order to maximize revenue from their content libraries. For international markets, streaming arrangements would vary according to the specific deals negotiated in each territory, following the pattern established with the first film. The physical media release, including Blu ray and 4K Ultra HD editions, was anticipated to follow several weeks after the digital release, with pre orders available through major retailers. The physical editions were expected to include special features such as behind the scenes features, deleted scenes, and other supplementary content that would give fans a more detailed look at the film's production. The speed of the home media release while consistent with the new 5 weekend minimum window, struck some observers as aggressive given the film's continued commercial performance at the box office. The Super Mario Galaxy movie was still actively generating meaningful theatrical revenue in its fifth weekend, particularly in international markets where it had released later, and the rapid digital release potentially cannibalized some of that theatrical tail. This tension between theatrical and home media release windows is an ongoing conversation in the film industry. And the Mario Galaxy movie situation illustrated the real commercial trade offs involved in decisions about theatrical exclusivity. Reception box office Super Mario Galaxy movie arrived at theaters on April where Toshin system. And the box office results from its opening days established it immediately as one of the most commercially successful animated films of the decade. The film's first day of release, a Wednesday, generated $34 million in North American ticket sales, a figure that did not include any traditional preview screenings, making it the best Wednesday opening day ever recorded in April and the best opening day of any film released in 2026 to that point. The Wednesday opening timed to capitalize on the first day of the school spring break holiday for many American families set an unambiguously positive tone for the rest of the opening stretch. Over its first 2 days of release, the film earned one with Toolers. 1 million worldwide. By the end of its opening 5 day stretch, which encompassed the Wednesday through Sunday of Easter week, the Super Mario Galaxy movie had earned 108.8 million in North America. This figure placed it fourth on the all time list of biggest 5 day openings for any film in the region, behind Moana 2, Dushan V1.4 million, 2000 V1.4, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, to 4.6 million, 2023, and Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, Toshan million, 2009. The comparison with the first Mario film was particularly instructive. The sequel's 5 day total was 13.8 million behind the original, reflecting both the ongoing commercial power of the franchise and the fact that the first film had benefited from a novelty factor that was necessarily absent from its follow up. The film's traditional 3 day opening weekend figure was 130.9 million in North America from 4,000 Dushan Fit 2 theaters, making it the highest grossing opening weekend of any film released in 2006 up to that point. Internationally, the film's opening weekend from 80 markets generated 882.4 million, bringing the global opening weekend total an extraordinary 372.6 million to 373 million, depending on the rounding of individual market figures. This global debut set the record for the biggest global opening at the domestic box office in 2006 and placed the film fifth on the all time list of biggest global openings for an animated film. Additional records established during the film's opening included the second biggest global opening for an Illumination film behind the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the second biggest opening for a film based on a video game, the fourth biggest Easter 3 day opening of all time, and the only animated film franchise to have two films each opening to more than 350 million globally. Mexico led international markets with 29.1 million from 5,136 screens, while the United Kingdom and Ireland combined for 19.7 million. Spain opened at number 1 with $1.8 million and a running total of 19.7 million, a figure consistent with the first film's performance in that market at the same point. The film cinema score, which reflects audience sentiment gathered through exit polls on opening night, was an A minus, a strong grade that was slightly lower than the A rating earned by the first film, but still solidly positive. AMC CEO Adam Aron was effusive in his public comments about the film's performance, calling it confirmation of the ongoing power of event cinema and noting that the film had drawn fans, families, and younger moviegoers in particularly large numbers. AMC captured approximately 22% of the opening weekend's total box office, with Cinemark at 16.6%, Regal at 16%, and Canada's Cineplex at 8%. The film's second weekend performance was equally impressive from a commercial standpoint. The Super Mario Galaxy movie retained the top spot at the North American box office with $69 million from Forza Dushan 84 theaters, an expanded screen count from its opening weekend, indicating strong demand from exhibitors and a decline of just 40 to 40% from its debut. For a blockbuster of this scale, a 40% decline in its second weekend is considered a stronghold, indicating healthy audience word of mouth and repeat viewership rather than the kind of front loaded opening that can presage a rapid collapse in subsequent weekends. The 2 weekend cumulative North American total stood at 308.1 million now, while the international tally after 2 weekends reached 321.1 million, bringing the global total to 608.8 to 691 million. This milestone made the Super Mario Galaxy movie the first Hollywood film of 2026 to surpass both $300 million domestically and $600 million globally. Significant commercial achievements that reinforced its position as the dominant film of the year to that point. The film overtook the Ryan Gosling starring Project Hail Mary as the highest grossing film of 2026 after just 12 days in theaters, a remarkably swift ascent to the top of the annual charts. The film continued to perform solidly in subsequent weekends. Its third weekend saw it retain the top position at the box office with $36.5 million, and it was only dethroned in its fourth weekend by Michael, finishing in second place that frame with 20.6 million there. By April 29, 2006, approximately 4 weeks into its theatrical run, the Super Mario Galaxy movie had earned $390 million in the United States and Canada and $446 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $835 million. The film was at that point the highest grossing film of 2006 and the highest grossing animated film of the year by a substantial margin. The combined box office performance of the Super Mario Galaxy movie and its predecessor helped the Super Mario Bros. Animated franchise surpassed $2 billion in cumulative global box office receipts, a remarkable achievement for a franchise with only two films. This placed the Nintendo Illumination Universal collaboration among the most commercially successful animated film franchises of all time, ranking it 10th on the list of highest grossing animated feature film series by total global revenue, trailing but in the company of established giants like the Despicable Me and Minions franchise, the Shrek series, and Disney's various animated dynasties. By the time of writing in early May 2006, the film's global cumulative total was closing in on $848 million according to Wikipedia's running figures, with the final total expected to approach or potentially exceed the symbolic $1 billion threshold, particularly if the Japanese market, which had delivered nearly $102 million for the first film, performed comparably for the sequel. The film's production budget was $110 million, excluding marketing and promotional expenditures, meaning that by any measure of theatrical profitability, the film represented an enormous commercial success for all parties involved. The film's box office performance was widely analyzed for what it revealed about the state of the theatrical movie business in 2006. Multiple industry analysts and commentators noted that the Super Mario Galaxy movie's results, together with those of other animated titles that had performed well in the year, demonstrated the enduring commercial power of the animated film format when properly executed and marketed. The film disproved any notion that animated sequels necessarily underperform relative to their originals. While the Galaxy movie did trail the first Mario film's comparable figures by some margin, it demonstrated that the franchise retained enormous commercial appeal even on its second theatrical outing. The film also illustrated the particular drawing power of intellectual properties with deep fan bases. As the Mario franchise's decades long history and global recognition translated directly into ticket sales across dozens of international markets, the early April timing of the release proved strategically astute. By coinciding with both the school spring break period in the United States and the Easter holiday weekend, Universal maximized the film's access to its core family audience demographic. The 2006 domestic box office year, which had already shown strong signs of recovery and growth relative to previous years, was measurably boosted by the Mario movie's performance. According to Comscore, the film's opening period helped push 2026 domestic box office revenue to $2. But 13 billion by April 8th, a 20.5% increase over the same period in 2025, and the best showing for that portion of the year since before the COVID-19 pandemic. Critical response: while the Super Mario Galaxy movie performed extraordinarily well commercially, its critical reception told a more complicated story. The film arrived with substantial advance expectations from critics, many of whom had been relatively reserved in their assessment of the first Mario film despite its massive popular and commercial success. The first film had earned a 59% rating on the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes, a score that technically placed it in rotten territory by the site's conventional threshold, though it had performed exceptionally well with general audiences who gave it a 96% audience score. The Super Mario Galaxy movie fared worse with professional critics. The film opened with a Rotten Tomatoes tomatometer score of approximately 40 to 43% based on around 174 to 216 critic reviews, depending on the specific count at different points in time. This represented a meaningful decline from the first film's critical standing, and it placed the sequel in clearly rotten territory by the site's classification. The Metacritic score, which calculates a weighted average of critic reviews on a 100-point scale, came in at 37 compared to 46 for the first film, a drop of 9 points that reflected a broadly less favorable critical consensus. The critical complaints centered on several recurring themes. Critics frequently cited the film's narrative thinness, describing the story as formulaic, shallow, or insufficiently developed relative to the visual spectacle on offer. A number of reviews characterized the film as prioritizing fan service, the inclusion of recognizable characters, Easter eggs, and references to Nintendo history over genuine storytelling craft. The criticism that the film was references over substance was repeated across multiple publications, suggesting a consensus view that the filmmakers had been too focused on pleasing existing fans and not focused enough on building a story with emotional resonance for broader audiences. The Rotten Tomatoes critical consensus captured the divided assessment sickly, noting that the film's visuals were often out of this world, but that the threadbare story ultimately loses its Milky Way. Entertainment Weekly published a review grading the film a C, calling it a film that settles for moments of visual inspiration that replicate the little rushes of opening up new worlds in one of the games, while letting almost every character drift. This kind of observation, acknowledging the visual achievement while lamenting the narrative and character work, was characteristic of the more thoughtful critical responses. Among more favorable critics, Screen Rant's Jordan Williams wrote that the film offered a lot of fun for viewers ready to turn off their brains, while David Gonzalez of the Cinematic Reel compared the experience to a train gaining speed. If the first film had boarded audiences, the sequel kept them moving. Julian Lytle of Reuters called it the most enjoyable theater experience of the year. M.N. Miller of In Session Film, expressing some surprise, wrote that the sequel levels up relative to its predecessor. These more enthusiastic reviews tended to emphasize the film's entertainment value, its visual energy, and the pleasure of spending time with beloved characters. The critical consensus, however, leaned negative. The film's 40 to 43% tomatometer score reflected a majority of critics who found it insufficient, and the Metacritic score of 37 placed it in the category of generally unfavorable reviews by that site's classification. One particularly pointed Rotten Tomatoes quoted review described the film as something that never stops feeling like the product of someone mashing lifeless action figures together. A cutting characterization that encapsulated the concerns of the film's harshest critics. Audience, however, saw things differently. The film's Rotten Tomatoes audience score, measured through the site's verified hot popcorn meter, which aggregates verified ticket purchaser reviews, came in at 89%, a figure that represented enormous popular enthusiasm, even if it was somewhat below the 95% audience score of the first film. This gap between the critics' score, approximately 41%, and the audience score, 89%, was one of the widest for any major release of 2006 and became a subject of considerable online discussion and debate about the relationship between professional criticism and popular taste. Audience reviews collected by Rotten Tomatoes reflected themes of pure entertainment value and fan satisfaction. One verified audience reviewer wrote that when a film is fun, it is fun, and that the Nintendo world, with all its Easter eggs, cameos, and references, was deeply enjoyable to inhabit, even if the narrative was messy and lacked focus. Another noted that the characters were the film's greatest strength, expressing satisfaction at seeing them developed and expanded in a film context for the first time. More critical audience voices noted that the film felt rushed and that, despite being titled a Galaxy movie, only a small fraction of the source material from the games had actually been incorporated. The cinema score of A minus, gathered from audiences leaving the theater on opening night, was an additional data point suggesting strong general audience satisfaction. CinemaScore surveys tend to capture the immediate emotional response of moviegoers, and an A minus is a solidly positive grade that indicates the film was delivering on the entertainment expectations of its audience. Even if professional critics found it wanting, the critical and audience reception divergence became especially prominent topic following comments from Shigeru Miyamoto, Nintendo's legendary game designer and one of the film's producers. In an interview with the Japanese publication Famitsu, the translation of which was widely circulated in English language gaming and film media, Miyamoto expressed genuine surprise at the negative critical reception, saying he had expected the reviews for the Galaxy movie to be better than those for the first film, which he had also found harsh. Miyamoto described the negative critical reception as truly baffling, particularly given what he saw as Nintendo and Illumination's efforts to energize the film industry. Miyamoto expanded on these thoughts in a subsequent interview with NDW, telling the publication that he found it rather odd that critics were even harder on the sequel than on the first film. He expressed a view that the film industry's critics, as people in the business of championing cinema, had been surprisingly unwelcoming to Nintendo's contributions to the theatrical landscape. These comments generated substantial commentary, with many critics and commentators pushing back on the framing that critics have an obligation to respond positively to any film that performs well commercially or represents an earnest creative effort. The conversation highlighted the ongoing tension between commercial success and critical evaluation as metrics of a film's value. Gaming outlet Kotaku, in covering Miyamoto's comments, offered a pointed counterargument. Critics are not obligated to respond positively to filmmaking that they find lacking in quality, regardless of the effort invested or the commercial results achieved. The publication noted that there are numerous examples of animated films aimed at similar or even younger audiences that manage to tell stories with genuine emotional depth and craft. The argument that the film was just for kids and therefore beyond critique was rejected as insufficient by many professional commentators. Despite the mixed critical response, the film's audience engagement was clearly robust. The social media presence of the film was extraordinary, with Relish Mix measuring set 75.6 million social media impressions across major platforms, 21% above genre norms. Audience members who enjoyed the film were vocal and enthusiastic in their engagement online, and the film generated substantial cultural conversation, including fan theories, character comparisons, Easter egg compilations, and debates about the film's faithfulness to the source material. The film's reception, taken as a whole, placed it in a category that has become increasingly familiar in contemporary Hollywood. The critically divisive blockbuster that finds enormous favor with general audiences regardless of professional consensus. This pattern, which had already been established by the first Mario film, was reinforced and perhaps even amplified by the sequel. The divergence between professional and popular assessment of the film raised genuine questions about the appropriate role of professional film criticism in evaluating entertainment products that are designed explicitly for broad family oriented audiences. Nintendo's ongoing response to the critical discourse was itself revealing. Miyamoto's public comments signaled a corporate perspective that placed considerable weight on audience satisfaction and commercial success as primary metrics of a film's value, while viewing professional critical reception as a secondary and somewhat puzzling concern. This perspective contrasts with the more traditional view that critical reception and popular success are both meaningful, if distinct, ways of assessing a film's place in the cultural landscape. Whether the Mario franchise will adjust its creative approach in future installments based on critical feedback or continue to prioritize audience entertainment value over the concerns of professional reviewers remained an open question as the Galaxy movie concluded its theatrical run. The broader context of the film's reception also includes its relationship to the video game adaptation genre more generally. In recent years, a number of video game adaptations, including the Sonic the Hedgehog films, the Uncharted movie, and various others, have found commercial success despite mixed or unfavorable critical reception. The Super Mario Galaxy movie continued this pattern and in some ways represented its most extreme example, given the scale of the commercial success relative to the critical disappointment. For studios considering future video game adaptations, the Galaxy movie's results sent an unmistakable message. The commercial case for these projects does not depend on critical approval provided the core audience is engaged and the marketing is executed effectively. Looking forward, the strong commercial performance of the Super Mario Galaxy movie virtually guaranteed the continued expansion of the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. Industry observers noted that the franchise's two film total of more than $2 billion at the global box office made a third Mario film essentially inevitable, with the only questions being the timing, the creative theme, and the specific source material that would inspire the next installment. The Legend of Zelda live action film, already in production with a planned May 2027 release, represented the next step in Nintendo's theatrical ambitions. And its reception, critical and commercial alike, would provide important data points for understanding the scope and trajectory of what Nintendo and Illumination appeared to be building together. One of the most commercially powerful entertainment franchises in the history of animated cinema, Reviews number 1, Nintendo has announced that the final trailer for the Super Mario Galaxy movie will air on Monday as part of a special direct presentation. This last look at the film comes ahead of its April 1 premiere. The direct airs Monday, March 9, starting at 2 p.m. PT, 5 p.m. ET on Nintendo's YouTube channel and the Nintendo Today app. Nintendo also revealed a new poster for the film that shows off the main cast and newcomers, including Birdo and Wart from Super Mario Bros. To the US version. The Super Mario Galaxy movie features returning stars like Chris Pratt Mario, Charlie Day Luigi, Anya Taylor Joy, Peach, and Jack Black Bowser, alongside newcomers Benny Safdie, Rosalina. The movie also introduces Yoshi. If you haven't seen Mario's latest theatrical adventure in action yet, you can check out the film's first and second trailers now. Number two, it's a blockbuster again. The Super Mario Galaxy movie towered over the global box office with 372.5 million, including a notable and 82.4 million internationally. Those ticket sales easily capture the title for the biggest worldwide debut of the year over Amazon MGM Space Odyssey Project Hail Mary, which bowed to 33.1 millional overseas and 97.2 millional worldwide in March. This start is roughly equal to the first installment in Universal and Illumination's video game inspired franchise. 2 3's The Super Mario Bros. Movie ignited to $171 million overseas and a stellar $375 million worldwide in the same time frame. That film became a four-current smash with 1.3 billion globally. Super Mario is the only animated franchise to have two titles open to over 350 million globally, according to Universal. Galaxy also ranks as Hollywood's fourth biggest animated debut ever after Zootopia 2, Moana 2, and the Super Mario Bros. Movie, as well as Universal's fifth biggest worldwide launch behind the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The Super Mario Galaxy movie cost a hetu 10 million to produce. It landed in 80 overseas markets. Top territories were Mexico with 9 million, the United Kingdom and Ireland 19.7 million, and France 2 million. The Adventures of Mario and Luigi were popular in IMAX, where the film scored 2.2 million to rank as the second best global opening for a Hollywood release. It's above the debut of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which launched to $20. 4 million globally in IMAX, another intergalactic tale. Project Hail Mary has also been a draw in IMAX, where the blockbuster has earned 73.6 million to date, including $5 million this weekend. Project Hail Mary continues to dazzle the box office with $40.1 million from 86 overseas markets in its third weekend of release. That marks a scant 20% decline in ticket sales from last weekend. So far, the blockbuster has grossed 203s. 6 million overseas and 400.7 million globally. It's the first major commercial hit for Amazon MGM, which needed a win after the back to back financial misfires of Melania and Crime 11. The Super Mario Galaxy movie and Project Hail Mary are primed to dominate the box office for most of April. They have free reign until Lionsgate's Michael, a biopic about the King of Pop, debuts at the end of the month. Number 3, as rumored yesterday, the sequel to 2023's The Super Mario Bros. Movie from Nintendo and Illumination has been announced by Nintendo during the September Nintendo Direct. Featuring all the original actors from the previous movie, the Super Mario Galaxy movie is set to release in spring 2026, picking up on the theme of the 2007 Super Mario Galaxy Wii game. The footage shown so far is brief, oddly not showing anything of Mario and chumps actually in space, but rather just a very pretty view of rolling green hills in the Mushroom Kingdom. But there will be months of trailers to come. Nintendo confirmed the entire original cast is back for the sequel, and yes, that means Chris Pratt is once more going to give us his generic performance as Mario. Sigh. But it also means the glorious return of Jack Black as Bowser, along with Anya Taylor-Joy as Peach, Charlie Day as Luigi, and Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. There's still no signs of life at the registered Super Mario Galaxy Mamage URL, which is how people were tipped off to the movie's title yesterday. That means there's also no more information than Miyamoto's declaration that the characters will be visiting space for the film, presumably across a series of teeny tiny planets to match the nature of the classic games. It should offer a chance for a huge array of silly escapades, and ideally Mario dressing up as a bee, because that is the cutest thing that has ever happened. Number 4 update. Universal Nintendo Illuminations, the Super Mario Galaxy movie, arrived with a bang over Easter on a confirmed 130.9 meter over the Friday Sunday session and 198 meter over 5 days for the biggest debut of the year to date, opening in 4,252 locations. The family sequel to the 2003 global smash delivered the biggest 3 day debut since Wicked. For good in November, the biggest 5 day debut since Moana 2 in 2004. The second biggest 3 day bow for Universal and Illumination behind the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and the third biggest 3 day opening for a film based on a video game behind a Minecraft movie and the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The result for the 110-meter feature means the Super Mario Bros. Animated franchise becomes only the second after Shrek, Toy Story, and Minions to have two titles open to more than 100 meters over 3 days, the Super Mario Bros. Movie debuted 3 years ago on 106 point over 3 and 2 set for 6 over 5 days and went on to gross 5 subset for 9 in North America and 136 billion worldwide. IMAX screens delivered 15 meters, accounting for 8% of the film's overall weekend gross and establishing the opening weekend as the second highest domestic for an animation in North America in the format. Chris Pratt and Charlie Day reprised their voice roles as brothers Mario and Luigi, who respond to a mysterious call to help that involves Princess Peach past. Anya Taylor-Joy also stars alongside returning cast Jack Black as Bowser, Keegan-Michael Key as Toad, and Kevin Michael Richardson as Kamek. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic, directed from a screenplay by Matthew Fogel and Universal Pictures and Nintendo co-finance, the Super Mario Galaxy movie was the key driver in weekend box office, which produced an estimated 195 points at meter over 3 days. While that was 4 phone down against the same session in 2025 when Warner Bros. A Minecraft movie arrived on 162 date, it has pushed ticket sales for the year to date to 2048 BN, tracking 26% ahead of last year by the same stage. Amazon MGM Studios' Project Hail Mary, starring Ryan Gosling, ranks second in its third session as a 30 haul from 3,000 set sites following a 40% drop boosted the running total to 217. Doom Liam Pam Fifo's comedy The Drama, starring Zendaya and Robert Pattinson, debuted in third place via 8v4 on Forten Chormit from 3080 se. This was ahead of last year's hit Materialist, which opened on 11th meter in June 2005. Exit polls indicated that 80% of the audience was aged under 35 for the story of an engaged couple whose wedding appears to be in peril after an unexpected revelation. Rounding out the top 5 with Disney, Pixar's Hoppers at number 4 on 149. 6 meters after a fourth weekend that delivered 5.8 meter on a 50% drop, and Universal's reminders of him in fifth with 2 meters after a 3% decline for 43 short meters after 5 weekends of release. Placing eighth after 3 sessions is Durandar, The Revenge, the highest grossing Indian release of all time in North America. The crime epic added 1.9 meters from 464 sites via Moviegoers Entertainment for a 20-month cumulative total and becomes the first Indian film to cross 25 meters at the North American box office. Number 5, Nintendo and Illumination have announced the sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, officially titled The Super Mario Galaxy Movie, is coming out April 3, 2026. The news was revealed during a Nintendo Direct, which also marked the 40th anniversary of the original Super Mario Bros. Game, first released in 1985. Variety reported the sequel takes inspiration from the acclaimed Super Mario Galaxy games, first launched on the Wii in 2007. Nintendo said the Galaxy titles will be the main inspiration while also including surprises for fans of every Mario era, Newsweek reported. This fueled speculation that Rosalina, a fan favorite from the Galaxy series, might appear, although the game developers haven't confirmed her role. Nintendo also announced the Galaxy games will arrive on the upcoming Switch 2 in October. The announcement came with a new teaser video. It opens with Mario peacefully napping beneath a tree in a wide field of flowers, with Princess Peach's castle visible in the distance. A butterfly lands on his cap before fluttering across the vibrant landscape, passing Hopper emerging from the grass, Cheep Cheep swimming in a stream, and Toad standing on a dock. The butterfly continues its journey toward the castle, soaring higher and higher until it breaks through the clouds and into the galaxy. There, the movie's title appears, and Lumali pops up with a cheerful "Let's go." The returning voice cast includes Chris Pratt, Mario, Anya Taylor-Joy, Peach, Charlie Day, Keegan-Michael Key Toad, and Kevin Michael Richardson. Kamek, the first film, released in April 2020, became the highest grossing video game adaptation ever with $1.36 billion worldwide, ranking as the fifth highest grossing animated movie of all time, Variety reported. Nintendo is also broadening its cinematic slate with a Legend of Zelda film set for March 26, 2027, directed by Wes Ball. Crystal Huggins is a 2023 graduate of Delta College with an associate's degree in electronic media broadcasting. During her time at Delta, she gained hands on experience in media production and was recognized for her academic achievements, earning multiple honors. She has worked as a news producer and anchor for NewsNet, where she delivered daily broadcasts for audiences in Hawaii, Northern Michigan, and Los Angeles. She also has experience in radio broadcasting, having served as a morning show producer and on air personality for McDonald Broadcasting. A mid Michigan resident, Crystal is passionate about storytelling, multimedia content creation, and engaging audiences through digital and social media platforms.